Coming to you from the greatest city in the world, this is the #1 showbiz podcast. It's Talk for Two. Here's your host, Matt Bailey.
Hey, Gary, you are awesome. Thank you so much, and welcome in to another episode today. This is going to be awesome. Our season sponsors, Axtel Expressions and the Tangent Bound Network. I love you. Find fantastic podcasts at tangentboundnetwork.com and all your entertainment needs at axtel.com. This week, we have a fantastic recording artist and native New Yorker, mind you, Janey Street. Her new EP comes out this week. So you got St. Patrick's Day on Thursday, and then Friday, March 18th, we get Janey Street's new album called I'm Not the Girl I Used to Know. And boy, is that true. Once mentored personally by Clive Davis and signed to Arista Records, she was on top of the world. And then, Arista dropped her out of nowhere. She began writing for film and for other artists in her current home base of Nashville, Tennessee. Then one day, a fan of hers was starting a new label and called her and signed her on the spot. The result of which is this new album, which I have heard and am absolutely, totally in love with. Her voice is gorgeous. The album, it's an EP, but it really is, there's just so much variety. You got to listen to it. You got to get it Friday. I love it. We talk her musical journey, her personal highs and lows in the industry, and finding her own voice stronger than ever once again. Here now to tell us about where the music has led her, our interview with Janey Street. Janey Street, welcome to Talk for Two. How are you today?
Great to talk to you, Matt.
Thank you so much. This is exciting. I love it whenever we get to talk to musicians, because especially Nashville musicians, because I just love that sound. And you have a new EP coming out, Not the Girl I Used to Know, and that's coming out on March 18th. And I'm excited. I got a little bit of a sneak listen, and it's an awesome record. And we're going to talk about that in a little bit. But I want to begin by talking about how you got started in music. You're from New York, right?
Yes, I am. I'm a New York girl all the way. I grew up in Queens and lived in Manhattan. I lived in Tribeca. I lived in 2 East 82nd Street in this rent-controlled historical building right across from Metropolitan Museum, Greenwich Village, Woodstock, and then I moved to Hermosa Beach in Los Angeles, and I lived on the beach, and then I moved to Nashville. So I've been all around the country.
Wow, I gotta ask, because that New York to Nashville, you don't see that a lot. I think sometimes maybe it might even be more common the other way, Nashville to New York. What drew you to Nashville? I mean, growing up, did you like that sound, country music, and just the stuff that comes out of there?
Well, no, there was an in-between Los Angeles time that I spent living on the beach. My music used to just take me. Like, I did a lot, I did a lot in the early days with my record deals with an act I had with my boyfriend, Janey and Dennis, and we opened up for a lot of people like the Bee Gees and, Richie Havens back when, played the Fillmore East, Bitter, Gaslight, all that stuff, played all over the East Coast and all over the country and Canada. And did a record for Warner Brothers and Capitol. And then I fell in love with a guitar player, broke up with Dennis, and then moved, and then broke up with the guitar player, and then moved, and then there was a producer that wanted to work with me in Los Angeles, so I moved out to Los Angeles and lived on the beach for a long time and made a lot of music in Los Angeles and did a record out there. Actually, no, I didn't. I did demos out there, and then I got signed to Clive Davis in New York while I was living in Los Angeles. So, long story short, after the Clive days, I did a lot of movies. I wrote songs for film and TV and blah, 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 and, did, whatever I had to do to pay the bills. And my friend Janice Ian asked, moved to Nashville, and she said, hey, you want to come here and try writing with some of these great people? And so I took a trip to Nashville from Hermosa Beach in Los Angeles, actually, and did a month's worth of writing sessions here, and I just fell in love with it. So my music just took, and I just sort of moved into I don't know. I just sort of, my music just took me wherever I thought I should be, I guess. So.
And then how did the traveling sort of influence your sound? I mean, I guess what I'm asking is, see, I'm not a musician, so some of these questions might sound like so superfluous, and what are you getting at? But
oh, don't worry about it. I have no problem. Believe me, I understand what you're saying.
But as a listener and an enthusiast, that loves to listen to music and loves to listen to the things that are cut in different areas of the country, what did you notice about how your style would change between New York, Los Angeles, and Nashville? Was the style and way that you wrote as transient as the music had made you to make that journey?
No, not really, not with me, because as an artist, I mean, I wore a lot of hats over the years of making music, because in the many years I was an artist. And I, kept up with the production value of radio, what was going on, because that's always changing, and I always try to stay current in a sense. I played with great musicians in New York, the A-team best players. I played with the best players in L.A. I don't know, and I started co-writing. I co-wrote with my first boyfriend with our act, we co-wrote. But then after that, I wrote by myself a lot. And then I started doing the co-writing scene in LA, and then I did the co-writing scene here in Nashville, and that involves doing demos and film and TV productions and stuff like that. So I don't know. I don't think that where I lived really influenced me. Like, I've written pop, R&B, all kinds of stuff, even some rap type stuff here in Nashville. So, but I've written a lot of country stuff too, and I've written a lot of blues, and I've written, I don't know, I've just covered the spectrum as a songwriter, and as an artist, I just do what I want to do. So those are the two different hats I wear, artist stuff, and then as a writer, trying to get cuts with big artists and film TV placements. I would just do whatever. I don't know, it didn't influence me. They're great writers, and musicians and singers and performers and great, people to work with in all of these cities. So, to me, I don't know. In my case, I didn't feel like the place really mattered that much. To be honest with you, when I think about it, you know what I'm saying?
No, that makes sense. That totally makes sense. So then the follow-up is, what does inspire you to say, I'm going to write in this genre for this song, or I'm gonna explore the countryside of things? How do you go about deciding what you're going to write and when you're going to write it?
Well, okay. For myself, I always just wrote for myself as an artist for many, many years. And then when I had my Arista record deal, and then I got dropped from the label, all of my really heavy-duty industry music people went into film, film music. So through my connections, they were doing all these film projects. And that time, that market wasn't that saturated for songwriters, and I got a lot of opportunities. So I wrote songs like they said, well, we need a song for this scene, blah, 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 a la Bruce Springsteen, you kind of do that, blah, blah, blah. So I would just I love that. I actually like transitioning into that, and I would see the scene, know the story, talk to the producers of the, of the movie and the music supervisors and find out what they like, and I would write to that. And then with my country stuff, I would it's a market here because everybody did, and people got cuts, and it was a real thriving creative community here in Nashville. So, we just get together in a room and say, okay, you got any titles? I got this group, and before you know it, you walk out of the room and you got a song. I don't know. I've been doing it for so many years. I really just can't analyze why I do it. I think I'm probably nuts.
No. It's a mark of a fantastic artist, and you are. I've been listening to your stuff the last couple of days, and I'm a fan. And you just have an incredible voice, and I can't get enough of this new album. But I want to kind of go back to the past and ask you how Clive Davis found you and how you got signed with him.
Okay, well, that's an interesting story. I was going through a period, I was younger back then, and I was going through a period where I had broken up with the guitar player, broke up with my dentist, my other partner that I got those other record deals with, right, Capitol and Warner Brothers Fields with and I did all that touring with.
Yeah.
And then I fell in love with the guitar player, and then I broke up with the guitar player and moved to Hermosa Beach. And I wrote a body of work that was really, I knew that I was sort of onto something really cool. And I had a really cool producer that believed in me and that did some tracks, and we tried to get a record deal with that. You know, we shopped a deal and blah, 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 and nobody was interested. So then I got hooked up with this young attorney in New York who was very ambitious, still living in L.A. at this point, right? Mm-hmm. And he really liked my demos, and he shopped them around. Everybody turned them down. But there was one guy, his name was Jimmy Einer, very powerful guy in the business, who had a production company at the time and was doing a lot of big stuff. And he heard the same thing that everybody else heard and said, this is really good. And with a little bit of a few meetings and some revising of the songs and blah, 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 in a matter of a month, I had like every record label wanted to sign me
Wow.
with the same song. So, I mean, it's the same story, you know. And so at the time, he had decided to go with Clive Davis because his brother, Donnie Einer, who's a very famous guy in the industry, at that time was the head of promotion. And so it was kind of like a really kind of cool deal. So that's who we decided to go with. But it's funny that you get turned down by everybody, and then you have somebody that really is kind of a powerful person in the business that thinks you're good, and then everybody else thinks you're good.
You get that, I think, in every single industry, whether it's music, film, television. Nobody pays attention to you until one important person pays attention to you, or until you're able to break through. And I'm just curious, you know, with your experience in the industry, why do you think that is? Why do you think it's so tough until just one thing kind of drops?
Well, I hate to say this, I'm not being critical or anything. I just think a lot of people get into the music industry that are on the business side, and I don't know. Some people are very hip and some people aren't. But in the old days, like Ahmet Ertekin and Clive Davis is a guy like that. They're very hip guys. They were very passionate, and they still are to this day. I mean, Ahmet is not with us anymore, but these guys that were the real, what's the word for it? These guys that were the real
power players.
The power players to be, back in the day when everything was really popping. These guys were very passionate about music. And I think a lot of people in the industry get into the industry, and they're not musicians, they're not songwriters, and they're not just business people. And so some of them, some of them have vision and some of them don't. I don't know, I'm not pointing anybody out. I'm just saying that, they feel more confident in their job if they like something that they know somebody else likes, because that way they don't look bad. Yeah, absolutely. That's what I found, and I think that most people in the industry knows that's kind of how it works,
Yeah, but it's interesting to me because you keep saying back in the day when it was what it was. How is it? I mean, it's changed dramatically, but I'm curious. There's so much criticism of the technology that has kind of overtaken the business. Do you think it's changed for better or for worse?
Well, I think technology is fantastic, and I love, I have a Pro Tools studio here at the house, and I love what I can do in the studio, as opposed to what we used to have to do, because it's easier.
Yeah.
I think the technology is great. That's a very, very, very big conversation. I'm not that directly involved with what's going on with legislation, with licensing, with the streaming, because publishers and copyright owners are really, really hurting because, the licensing laws with the Google and all of the, the technology companies, are, it's all out of whack. They're using our music like, back in the old days, Cole Porter with ASCAP. I mean, it's the same thing. We have to go through some kind of transition. And people, the people that I know, ASCAP, a lot of people are working on it down in Washington. I mean, I don't know. It's hard, It's one of those things where, the only complaint we have now is the streaming, being a songwriter and a publisher, when you're streaming people's music, they don't pay you hardly anything for that.
Right.
So, It's not like the kind of royalties you'll get from airplay on radio, which is still pretty good.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
And it's kind of a catch-22 because you want radio airplay, but you also have to, at least for one or two singles, I say have to, but most artists elect to throw some money into producing a music video that gets put on YouTube where anybody can go and see it and look at it at any time.
Yeah, people did, even back when, back then, people didn't make money off of the videos.
Yeah.
The biggest issue with technology and music is the streaming and the royalties from streaming. That's the big issue. People are fighting about it in Washington and trying to, make the issue, resolve the issue. And I hope they do because, it's a whole industry of people that are not making the money that they need to make. You know what I mean? So, that's a whole other it's a pretty complicated conversation, but I know about it. Not everybody knows about it, but I do. And I think that's the only thing the technology has hurt music. Maybe, let Spotify use her stuff. And it's a way of, I think Adele did that too. I think that's a way of saying, hey, you can't just use my music for nothing. You know what I mean? So this is an issue that's widely, in my industry, very, very, it's an issue. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, yeah, and I'm sorry to get on such a tangent, but this whole stuff as a media guy myself with doing this podcast, that whole side of it is just so interesting to me, and we kind of found our way there. But I want to get back to Clive. What is one thing, because I've never spoken to anybody who's worked with Clive Davis directly, what is one thing that he taught you about music and or about the industry?
Clive was, a really cool guy, and I really, I was signed to the label, and I met with him a few times, and he made me do my vocals a lot.
Yeah.
He made me do in those days, they didn't have Pro Tools, so you had to and they didn't have auto-tune either.
Yeah.
So he made me, I would go back and he'd say, no, you have to do this vocal over again. So that's what I remember the most. He was a very sweet man, and I've actually, have touched base with him a few times over the years, pitched him some songs for some of his artists. So, he was very, 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 the whole Arista crew was very, very good to me when I worked with them. They all really liked me. I was, because I was very friendly, and, I always get friendly with the, secretaries and the people. I'm sort of like that,
Yeah.
I'm not like, I'm kind of a, more of a real kind of, I'm not too much of a, I can't explain it. I just, I'm a friendly kind of person, so they all liked me, and we had it was a real good deal. It was really good. They really believed in me, and I don't know what happened, but I was doing very well with my record, and I just got dropped because I wasn't selling or whatever. That happens, whatever. But I liked working with Clive, and like I said, the only tough part was he just kept making me do my vocals
Yeah.
a million times.
Yeah.
And then we'd end up with the earlier vocal.
Yeah. Well, you got to do 5 of them to find out the first one was the good one. You get that in film with takes too. It's but yeah, you brought up being dropped. How devastating was that?
It was pretty bad.
Yeah,
it was.
I can imagine.
It was nuts because everybody made such a big deal. They thought I was going to be the next Bruce Springsteen, and they spent a lot of money on my video, which was all over on VH1 and all over the country in the top 10. And my chart, I had 2 chart singles, and the label was very excited about me. And then it just came to an end, very quickly. And it was an adjustment. I mean, I don't know. Things happen for a reason, I guess. I mean, I went on with my journey, and I've had a very, very interesting since then, and before then, and during then. I've had a very interesting journey, and I have a lot of stories.
Yeah. It's so interesting because I think we tend to think about reaching that success, whether it's getting signed to a record deal or whatever it is, as the pinnacle of success, and now from this day forward, I'm secure. What would you say the one thing to do once you're signed to protect yourself would be? What kind of mindset should they be in?
Well, just to always remember, my philosophy is, and it was then too, thank God, and that's why I survived pretty well, even though, of course I got really depressed after getting, dropped. And, you can't help it. I mean, that's life. But my philosophy has always been about my work. I've never really been in this business to become a star or be famous. I was always just into my work, into the music. That's what and so my advice to younger artists is always just stay on your track. If people think you're great 1 minute and don't the next minute, it has nothing to do with whether you're great or you're not. It's what you're doing. That's more important.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and you could tell that you are about your work and you love your work because of this new album, this new EP that's coming out. Tell us how you found your new label and I was reading that you just wrote the songs that they're in one shot, took it to the new label, and all of a sudden you were in the studio recording. It was that quick.
It was that crazy. It really was, and it's an interesting story because. When I got dropped from Arista, which was many years ago already, I was told that I was already too old to get another label deal.
Mm-hmm.
So I concentrated on the film stuff, and I did things to survive, and I performed, and I had bands playing around L.A., and then I came to Nashville, and I worked with some blues bands, and I actually did a blues record, independent record, and blah, 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 and I wrote songs for, publishers here, and country music, and R&B, and film stuff. I did whatever I can. I just kept working. And I was just working. I just did my music. Like I said, I just do my thing, and whatever happens, happens. And it turns out that a guy got in touch with me who was a Janey Street fan back from the Arista record.
Yeah.
And he tracked me down, and he got in touch with me, and he sent me an email saying, hey, because I have a website and whatever. Mm-hmm. And he got in touch with me, and he said, listen, we have a new label, and we would really love to talk to you. And so boom, 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 he gave me a link to read about the label and blah, 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 and all of those things. And, and it's Jack Tempchin was signed to it, a couple of interesting things. It sounded like a real interesting record, idealistic, artist-friendly record label, and I said, oh my God, this sounds great. So I had my manager call, and this man who is the Janey Street fan, and 3 weeks later we worked out our deal. And then I realized that I had been writing not for Janey Street because I was sort of in the mode of writing for other people and writing with young artists here in Nashville. I was just trying to get cuts, and trying to get film placements and stuff like that. I mean, just trying to make a living. And I was mentoring for Nashville Songwriters Association. So I was really busy doing music in different ways than writing for myself as an artist. I was wearing the hat at the moment. So they signed me, and I didn't have any Janey Street songs, which is really, something different than what I was doing. So I said, "Oh my God, I got to write an album." So I just sat down and I came up with all these great ideas and really cool stuff, the kind of stuff I really like to write. I like to write the other stuff too, but this was really getting back into my soul and my more introspective in the way I see things and blah, 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 instead of trying to write the next, Taylor Swift song or whatever.
Yeah.
But anyway, I got together with a lot of really great writers. My buddies from Muscle Shoals came up and finished up some stuff with me. So a lot of people came into the songs after I developed them so that I could get them done quickly. And fantastic co-writers. I mean, just great. And so I walked away in 6 weeks with a whole great record. I mean, boom. And I went out to L.A. and I played it for them, and they introduced me to this really great producer, and they just all went nuts over this stuff, and they said, well, you're ready to do your record. Boom, boom, boom. Come back to Nashville, write another 3 songs, go back to L.A. For a month and a half, and stay in a hotel, and go to the studio every day, and did my record.
That's great, and it's a really good record. It's your voice, because I listened to some of the stuff from the 80s, because YouTube, for better or for worse, is out there. Your voice has not aged today. You are incredible. And
well, thank you so much. I feel like the funny thing about this, Matt, is that at my age, some people go downhill at this age, and some people don't, I guess. But not everybody goes downhill. I mean, vocally, you know what I'm saying? It's just a physical thing that happens.
Oh, yeah.
For me, it's the opposite. The writing and everything. I have no idea why. I mean, just for me, I mean, I've been singing and performing all of these years and doing blues and doing all kinds of stuff. And I just, you know, I don't know. I mean, for me, I, you know, I've kept myself in shape, go to the gym. I I keep myself healthy, and, you know, I don't smoke, and I mean, I don't know. It's a weird art thing, because I would think, and especially the destruction that I did to myself in the old days, you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
I didn't think at this point in my life that I would be singing as good as I am, but I'm singing better than I did when I mean, I held up to doing like 17 tracks, because we didn't even use all the tracks we did. You know, when I was out in L.A. doing this record, I held up like doing vocals every day, like 4 or 5 hours, like it was nothing. And when I made my Arista deal with Clive, I mean, I kept on having to do things over again. I mean, I wasn't even as good. I mean, isn't that crazy?
That's crazy. And I mean, if I had to peg it just hearing your story, again, knowing nothing about the music industry, I think it's because you stayed writing, even if it were for other artists, and you stayed around and stayed in that scene, and it kept you going. And we're seeing the product of that now, and it's a great record, and I can't wait for the public to get a hold of it on March 18th. And then there's an LP coming out, hopefully by the end of the year, right? Something else?
No. Well, we're going to try and get it out in June, actually. You know,
cool.
Because we did this whole record, and then we decided to put out the EP and then the whole record after that. So you know, it's going to be hopefully in June. I mean, that's what we're shooting for. So we'll see. Well, you know, I mean, that's record labels. I mean,
yeah.
I was hoping that's the plan. Because I'm anxious for the whole record to come out, you know. Because there's a lot of good tracks on that, and I think you're going to enjoy it when you hear it. And I'm so glad that you like the EP. I mean, I really do. What song's your favorite? Do you have one?
I wrote it down, and it's My Side of Paradise. That is...
great. Well, you know, I wrote that with Janice Ian.
Oh, wow. Oh, that's awesome. That's so cool. I love it because it's funky, it's bluesy, your voice is so soulful on it, and it's just I loved listening to it, and it's I mean, the whole album is great, but that stands out to me just because it's so cool. It's like a mixture of everything, and to me, again, as a fan, sounds something that's kind of has the Nashville stamp on it too. It's really cool.
Well, thank you. I'm glad you enjoyed it. I'm really glad, you know, this is the first time people are starting to hear this now, you know. So it's been a well-kept secret up until now. You know what I'm saying?
Well, Captain, I think everybody's going to love it. Are you going to do, if not now, maybe in the record that you guys have slated for the summer, are you going to do a tour?
Well, that's in the works. We're trying, we're trying to put everything together and time everything right. We're just getting... You know, this EP is just getting released, and we're just doing, getting all the PR. Everything is just starting to move. You know what I mean? So
yeah.
we're in the process of doing everything we can to support the record, of course. You know, so I will definitely keep you up to date about everything.
Please do.
And yes, for sure. And I'm so glad to be talking to New York. Give my regards to Broadway.
Yes, ma'am. Yes. It's wonderful. Well, I have to close with my signature question that I always like to close with. I know we talked about it specific to contracts and not being sure of, wanting to find stability. But I have to ask, for the creative people, for the artists out there that want to get into songwriting, what's your advice?
Well, my advice is to, just dive in. I mean, I've mentored so many young songwriters, and I've just seen everything you could see. And it's a wonderful thing, and enjoy the process. And remember that it is a process, and it's also it's an art and it's a craft.
Yes.
So, it's important to listen to, if you want to write commercial songs and be successful, okay, there's two kinds, if you want to write things that are artsy and that you don't really care, that's one thing. If you want to get some, radio, cuts, you want to make it as an artist, and you want to, be accessible, then my advice to everybody, people like that, is to really listen to the radio, listen to really the great artists that are really out there that are doing real quality but current stuff, like Sam Smith, Ed Sherwin. I mean, that's who I think is cool. You know, Adele, some of the R&B stuff. I even like some of the rap stuff.
Yeah.
So, I mean, whoever's doing some cool stuff, and then, of course, go back to the history of the Beatles and Dylan and Jackson Brown, Joni Mitchell, all those greats, and really, really study it. Study all of it. And realize, you know, the way, you know, think about where the hook is, how people set up hooks, how they write their verses, how they move through the song so that they move their listener, you know, write like as if you're the listener. That's what I say. Right,
like you, as if you were the listener. That's incredible advice from an incredible musician, Ms. Janey Street. Thank you so much for being with us today.
Well, thank you, Matt. I really appreciate it, and thank you so much for giving me the interview and loving the record, and it's just great.
Yeah, and please let me know if you do a tour and you get to come home to New York here. I'd love to come see you.
New York is my home, and I definitely will get in touch with you, Matt.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Janey. That was a fantastic interview. Everybody, make sure to get the album this Friday, March 18th. I'm Not the Girl I Used to Know. It's fantastic, and you all will love it. This Friday, March 18th. Make sure to download it, buy it, go to the store. Just get this. You want to make sure to listen to it and watch out. We will keep you posted on any tour updates, and I'm sure we'll have her back. That's it for us this week. Thank you again to our season sponsors, Axtel Expressions and the Tangent Bound Network. We gave them a shout out at the top of the show. I want you all to stay tuned to talkfor2.com as well as Twitter and Facebook for more from the #1 performing arts podcast. Reach out by emailing talkfor2cast@gmail.com and talk about us on social media using hashtag talk42. From our site, you can go to our brand new Amazon guest shop and see some of my favorite projects from our guests. Movies, books, and more have been handpicked by yours truly so that you can get to know their work. And I am always updating it. I'm trying to get as many former guests on there as I can and their works. A lot of our guests have a lot of stuff, so it takes days to just sit down and I got to do it, but I will put Janey's new album up there and anything else from her that Amazon may have so that you all can go right there and buy it. Signing off for Talk for Two, I'm Matt Bailey, reminding everyone out there to keep talking for two.
You can hear more show business interviews with the stars at talkfor2.com, where you'll also find one-of-a-kind products to improve your own show. That's talk, the number 4, TWO.com.